Hello everyone! As the Gwent expansion Master Mirror approaches, the first journey is coming to a close. The journey added a Battle Pass style feature into Gwent filled with incredible cosmetics and cool quests released weekly, as well as a great story chronicling the meeting of the Bard and the Witcher. The story shows the events from both characters' perspectives as they progress, split into 4 chapters. I'm going to read each of the chapters from both characters' perspectives so that you don't have to. I'm also going to give my opinion on what the next journey is going to be and the reasons that I think that. I hope that you enjoy. Chapter 1. Dandelion. Dandelion was fighting. The alcohol he had drunk was still pulsating in his veins, dulling his senses. Throbbing pain reverberated deep inside his skull. His heavy breathing marked the rhythm of his torment. The bard cursed under his breath. His nausea only agreed to relent once the vodka had been forcefully purged. Despite his best efforts, the sheets became victim of this cleansing. So he cursed once more, while panting heavily until finally making a hesitant step from his bed. Then another, despite his feet dancing strangely on the floor with questionable stability. The thirst grabbed him by the throat. He scrambled for a jug of water whilst attempting to recall the previous evening. The Spring Festival, an age-long tradition stolen from the elves, attracted many to the small city of Gulet. It was a pompous celebration with copious amounts of food and booze, yet it lacked refined entertainment. Until the local mayor decided to pay a young poet for his renowned talents. Not enough, thought Dandelion, licking the last droplets of water from the jug's edge. Definitely not enough. The mayor's daughter flinched in disgust at the sight of the monstrous mess. Still, she entered further into the chamber in which her father had housed their guest. She stopped after reaching the bed and cast a meaningful look at Dandelion. He was accustomed to others looking down their nose at him after witnessing such a trifle. This, however, did not deter him from unleashing a rather charming smile. In fact, it would be hard to find a smile more disarming than Dandelion's. But the mayor's daughter sighed with resignation. Furthermore, she surprised him with her frigidity as she cut straight to the matter of his performance at the Spring Festival. She proclaimed that there must be no shortage of poetry and singing, and that his young and, in her humble opinion, questionable talent would be no excuse for failing to provide. Dandelion glanced at her rather disappointing bosom, about which he had already started composing a spiteful ballad. He grinned once more. After reaching the market square, Dandelion made his way directly to the stage prepared for the spectacle. In order to make up for his tardiness, he began stringing his lute, commencing his concert unconventionally. He slid past a stocky tradeswoman who, despite his brilliance, didn't even bother to give him a second look. One could not say that about the restless crowd forming by the stage. Excited whispering began as people stepped aside. Even a white-haired fellow, which the learned bard quickly identified as a witcher, respectfully made room for him. The inhabitants of Gulet seemed capable of recognizing a virtuoso, even before hearing him. Splendid! Dandelion took a deep bow, sweeping the cobblestones with the heron feather on his hat. Then he fulfilled the silent wish of the crowd. He swiped his fingers nimbly across the strings of his lute. Both his steps and his melody were mesmerizing all in attendance. Yet it was clearly his majestic voice that finally won the hearts of his audience. By its conclusion, he saw that he managed to achieve the seemingly impossible. There stood an unfeeling witcher with a tear in his eye, clearly moved by his poetry. And now for Geralt, Chapter 1. Geralt was fighting. The potions he had drunk were still lingering in his veins, sharpening his senses. Last night, the damp air clung to his lungs, his heavy breathing marking the rhythm of his strikes. The Witcher cursed vehemently as he struggled to strike the creature's scale-covered flesh. Having finally hit the mark, the wounded creature retreated, diving swiftly underwater, somehow vanishing despite its large size. So he cursed once more whilst panting heavily, until finally taking a hesitant step forward. Then another, despite the thick sludge clinging aggressively to his legs. Something slithery crawled into his boot, sending chills deep into his bones. He barely managed to turn around as black water gushed out behind his back. The giant viper, surely as old as the surrounding swamp, had been hunting around Gulet for years. For years it had been killing, growing in size and hardening its now rigid scales, until the local mayor decided to pay a witcher to end its rampage. Not enough, Geralt thought, evading a stream of toxic venom. Definitely not enough. The mayor flinched in disgust at the sight of the monstrous trophy. Still, he peeked curiously into the gaping jaw and tried to count the viper's teeth. He gave up after 30-something, casting a meaningful glance at Geralt. The witcher shrugged. Officials such as the mayor often search for excuses to skimp on payment. It was, however, hard to argue results after having a viper's head slung directly onto your desk. Thus the mayor of Gulet paid without any hesitation. In fact, he showed some unusual hospitality towards the witcher, painting a tempting picture of the local spring festival. The streets would flow with boundless alcohol and succulent meats within arm's reach. Furthermore, the performance of a talented young poet was planned, so the mayor insisted, "Relax, enjoy our culture at its finest." Geralt took a long look at the bloodied head, which had already begun filling the office with a repugnant stench. He shrugged once more. After reaching the market square, Geralt did not immediately search for the stage. First, in order to ensure his merriment, he secured himself the necessities, a bottle of vodka and a ring of sausage. The stocky tradeswoman who was selling the goods did not bother to give him a second look. Clearly an exception. Whispers from the growing crowd started and people stepped promptly out of his way. Some glanced, failing to hide their fear, others gawked openly at the white-haired witcher. Geralt ignored all of them, calmly sipping vodka and eating the greasy sausage. The sounds of lute began diverting the crowd's attention. Music flowed from the direction of the nearby town hall and, whoever was playing it, was clearly hungover, as both his steps and his melody were clearly not very rhythmical. However, once he began singing, his voice proved to be quite pleasant, and the song itself, entitled "The Ballad of the Two Tiny Tits," while crude, was quite amusing. Nonetheless, with the performance concluded, Geralt judged the gastronomical feast as superior to the artistic one. The sting of the last gulp of vodka brought tears to his eyes.